Have you ever told her, "I'm fine, it's all normal," and then 3 hours later she's angry at you over something completely different? You stand there not understanding what's happening, with only one question in your head. Why did everything escalate so fast? But think carefully, was it really a different issue? Or did it all start the moment you said, "I'm fine"? You think she's too sensitive, over-analyzing, too complicated, and she thinks you're not being genuine, not opening up, not letting her into your inner world. Two people are in the same situation, yet they experience two completely different stories. I used to be like you. I used to think that telling the truth was enough. I used to believe silence meant peace. Until I realized there's a system operating that no one ever explained to me. Today, I'm not talking about romantic movies or sweet lines. I want to talk about how the female brain actually works day to day, not so you can win an argument, but so you can understand what is really happening between the two of you. Once you understand it, you'll feel less confused, less irritated, and for the first time, you may be able to see things more clearly. The first thing you need to understand is that no one is wrong here. It's just that you're running two different operating systems. Men are programmed in a very straightforward way if there's a problem. Find a solution. If there's an issue, fix it as quickly as possible. When we hear someone complain, our minds automatically switch on one question. How do I fix this? How do I solve this? How do I make this end? We feel valuable when we can repair something. Women are a little different. When something happens, their brains take a different path. They start with emotion, then look for meaning in what happened, and only then think about a solution. If the emotion hasn't been processed yet, a solution offered at that moment will sound cold, not because they don't need a solution, but because they haven't reached that step yet. I once met a man who was very proud because he helped his girlfriend save a large amount of money on a car repair. She took her car in, was quoted a high price, and he immediately called a friend, took the car to a trusted place, got it fixed quickly, and paid much less. In his mind, it was a victory. But that night she went quiet, then became irritated. He couldn't understand what he did wrong. The truth is, she didn't come to him because of the car. She came with a feeling of stress, exhaustion, and overload. She wanted to be able to say, "I'm so tense today. I'm scared it's going to cost a lot. Everything feels like a mess." She needed something like, "I get it. You're probably really tired." But instead, he jumped straight to the solution. He fixed the car correctly, but he skipped the emotional layer underneath. Many times, we don't solve the wrong problem. We solve the wrong layer of the problem. We see the surface, while she's living in the deeper part of it. When you understand this, she stops seeming confusing. You simply realize you're speaking the language of solutions, while she's speaking the language of emotion, and both have value, they just need the right timing. Now I want to talk about something many men misunderstand, what people call overthinking. You see her asking a lot, noticing a lot, analyzing a lot, and you think she's reading too much into things. But if you look more closely, it's not overthinking, it's a data scanning system running. Women are extremely sensitive to small shifts in behavior. You change your gym time, she notices. You reply a few minutes slower than usual, she notices. Your word choice changes. Your energy feels different. Your eye contact is slightly less direct, she still notices. To you, these are trivial details. To her, they are data. Men often focus on one thing at a time. You're watching football. You're just watching football. You're quiet because you're daydreaming. Maybe you're wondering where the sharks sleep, but during that same moment, her brain is never completely still. It keeps scanning, comparing, checking for changes. While you're thinking about where the sharks sleep, she's running 40 scenarios about your silence. Is he upset? Did something happen at work? Did I do something wrong? Is he slowly pulling away? It sounds exhausting, doesn't it? But try looking at it from the perspective of social survival. Throughout history, women survived by reading situations, reading emotions, and reading group dynamics. They were not physically stronger. So observation and the ability to detect social risk became an advantage. Who is backing whom? Who is being excluded? Who is planning to leave? All of that directly affected their safety and status. That system did not disappear just because we live in modern times. It is still on, even when the two of you are simply sitting on a sofa. So when you change a small habit, a question may activate in her mind. Why did he change his schedule? Why is he quieter? Why does he feel different today? Not because she wants to find fault, but because her brain is designed to detect change. The issue is that men often don't realize what signals they're sending. You think you're the same as always, but your texting rhythm, your tone, and your level of initiative have shifted. She senses that change in rhythm before you consciously notice it yourself. Sometimes she knows you're slowly withdrawing before you admit it to yourself. When you understand this, you'll feel less irritated when she asks more questions than you expect. Maybe she's not interrogating you. She's just doing what her system always does, scanning the environment, looking for signs, making sure everything is still safe. And instead of saying, "You're overthinking," sometimes all it takes is a simple sentence, "I'm still here," "Everything's fine," "I'm just a little tired." That alone can shut down many of the scenarios running in her head. There is another thing I wish I had understood earlier: the way women store memories. Men tend to remember events. We remember that something happened. Then we close it and move on. For us, the past is like a completed checklist. Once it's done, we let it go. But for women, memory is not just the event, it is the feeling attached to the event. You might casually say something like, "I think this dish is just average." You say it and immediately forget it, because in your mind, it wasn't important. But for her, that sentence gets stored together with the feeling of disappointment she felt in that moment. It is placed into a mental folder labeled "Times I didn't feel appreciated." You don't remember what you said. She clearly remembers how she felt. So when you argue today, you think you're discussing the present situation. But in her experience, it's not just about today. The feeling of being dismissed, overlooked, or unheard can reactivate similar moments from the past. Those old emotions never disappeared. They were simply resting until something touched them. That's what confuses you. You wonder why something small gets blown out of proportion. But in her system, it's not small. It's one link in an emotional chain that has been recorded before. Her brain isn't just reopening a file, it's replaying an entire movie, complete with sound and colour. The issue is not that she refuses to let go. The issue is that her brain stores things differently from yours. You store information to use when necessary. She stores emotions to protect herself from reliving the same pain. When you understand this, you'll stop assuming she's digging up the past on purpose. Maybe she's not intentionally returning to old stories. She's reacting to a feeling that once existed. And sometimes what she needs is not for you to prove that you were right, but for you to acknowledge that she was genuinely hurt at that time. Just that acknowledgement alone can soften many things that seem complicated. Now let's talk about the part that exhausts many men the most: layered communication. For men, words usually mean exactly what they say. If you say something, I understand it literally. But for women, communication does not exist only in words. It includes tone of voice, eye contact, timing, and even what remains unsaid. When she says, "I'm fine," you hear fine, but in her system, that sentence can carry multiple layers. "I'm fine" might mean I'm hurt, but I want to see if you notice. It might mean I'm not ready to talk yet, but I hope you ask again. Or it might truly mean she's fine, but the tone at that moment determines which meaning it holds. The challenge is that men process information literally. You believe that if there's an issue, someone will say it directly. You think good communication means being clear and straightforward. That's not wrong. But for many women, connection doesn't come only from content. It comes from feeling understood without having to over-explain. When she says, "I'm fine," and you go back to looking at your phone, a thought may arise in her mind: he's not really paying attention to me. Not because she wants to play games, but because she measures connection by whether you sense subtle emotional shifts. To her, your ability to notice is a signal that you are truly present. This doesn't mean you must constantly guess, and it doesn't mean she has the right to expect you to read her mind. This is where both sides meet halfway. She can learn to speak more clearly when she's truly not okay, and you can add one small step before accepting the word fine. Instead of staying silent or immediately moving on, you might say something simple. "I get the feeling you're not completely okay. Do you want to tell me more?" That one question alone can completely shift the direction of the conversation. It doesn't force her to talk, but it shows you're paying attention. And sometimes what women need isn't an exceptional problem solver, but someone perceptive enough to sense when something feels different. When you understand this layered communication, you no longer feel trapped. You're simply learning a new language, the language of attention and presence. One of the biggest conflicts in relationships doesn't come from who is right or wrong, but from how each person reacts under stress. When men are stressed, the natural response is often silence and withdrawal inward. You want space. You want to process things on your own, to think clearly before speaking. For you, silence is how you regain control. You're not pulling away because you stopped loving. You're retreating inward to stabilize yourself. But for women, when stress occurs, the response is completely different. They want to talk more, to share more, to feel closer. When pressure rises, they seek connection to feel safe. So when you withdraw, in your eyes, it feels normal. In her eyes, it can look like a warning sign. He's pulling away. He doesn't want to share anymore. Something must be wrong. And that's when the loop begins. The more you go silent, the more she worries. The more she asks and moves closer, the more suffocated you feel. You think you're not being given space. She thinks she's being abandoned. Both of you are stressed, yet unintentionally increasing the tension. What matters is understanding that both of you are trying to protect the relationship, just in ways that frighten the other person. You withdraw so you don't say something that causes more damage. She moves closer to make sure everything is still okay. When you see it from this perspective, blame starts to soften, instead of disappearing completely. Sometimes all it takes is saying, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Give me a little time, and I'll talk to you." Just one sentence like that can reassure her far more than you realize. After everything we've discussed, what I want you to remember is simple. She's not crazy. You're not careless. You're just using two different systems to experience the same relationship. When you don't understand that, every difference becomes a problem. When you do understand it, many things naturally become lighter. Many men try to change women, so they think more logically, less emotionally, and less analytically. But a mature man doesn't try to force a woman to think like him. He learns how she thinks, not to blindly please her, but to understand where he stands in her story. If you once believed she was too complicated, maybe today you've just understood another part of her system. When you see things from a different angle, you become less irritated, less defensive, and begin to recognize what is truly happening. Understanding is not about control, it's about connection. In the end, don't try to win a small argument only to lose long-term closeness. Don't win the argument, win the understanding.